I'm delighted to welcome Sue Denham. So this is also known as Celebrant Sue by your side, is that right?
That's me.
Lovely. And where have you come from today?
North Devon. Yeah, I live in a little village called Braunton near Barnstable.
Lovely. And of course you're here because you're a celebrant, and you're going to help me understand really what a celebrant does, and particularly what you do as a celebrant that makes you different from others.
Yep.
So can you explain to me first of all why a couple would choose a celebrant, or people just starting on this journey? What is the celebrant?
A celebrant, well, I basically say to people, I can do anything you would like during your ceremony as long as it's legal. Which sounds a bit of a funny thing to say, but we can help couples to have their wedding on a beach, on a cliffside, in a farm, in a park, wherever they want to have their ceremony, whereas registrars are restricted to licensed premises. So they have to be
not licensed as a pub.
No, licensed to conduct a wedding.
Yeah. Okay.
So a celebrant also, the main plus, I suppose, of having a celebrant is that they get to know the couple so well. So I meet my couples for several hours before the ceremony, online if needs be, but in person if possible. Find out all about them, find their love story, what they love about each other, what drives them mad about each other, why they fell in love, what was their moment, what was their big view for their wedding. Find out everything I can, and then you blend that all into a beautiful ceremony that really does tell their love story. So that story should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And that isn't traditionally being done in weddings. If you think, I can think back to my own wedding, we didn't really talk about us as a couple at all. We went through the symbolic getting married and the vows and all that sort of thing, but we didn't talk about us.
Yes.
And so it's getting that connection. I think, there's lots of celebrants all over the country, amazing people doing wonderful jobs, but it's when you get that connection with your couple and you just know you're going to be able to organise this fabulous ceremony for them because you've got a bond, you want to do the best for them, you've got that creativity going of how they want it to be.
I love this opportunity to be creative with the couple's story, so you can take something from that and then do something. Do you involve the guests or do something visual as well?
Yeah, oh absolutely.
So tell me how it works of when, they presumably couples obviously have to sign these papers. How does it normally work with when they sign the papers and when they have this ceremony?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways you can do it. It is a little bit of a postcode lottery because some celebrants and registrars can work together, some counties. So you might have the registrar doing the wedding ceremony where they do the legal signing, celebrant in the room, and then the registrar's finished and the celebrant takes over. It's like a nice flow through. But the couples obviously have to pay for both. They have to pay for the registrar coming out to the venue or the registry office and the celebrant taking over. What a lot of my couples do is it's called a 2+2, where they go with two friends who are their witnesses, and they go to the local registry office, do the ceremony 2 or 3 days before. I always say go for a nice meal, wear nice clothes, but don't do all the bits that we might do.
This isn't the day for the dress and the rings.
And don't do the vows and don't do that. Just go and do the legal bit.
Do you believe that celebrants should be allowed to officiate?
I would love it.
Interesting.
Celebrants across the country are fighting, in the nicest sense of the word, fighting for this to happen. So there's a wedding reform law going through at the moment. There's 112 proposals, and several of them are that celebrants should be given the legal right to officiate the ceremony as well.
Like they are in other countries.
Yes, Australia, America, they become officiants rather than registrars and celebrants. So we are desperately hoping that will go through, because I think couples have got the choice then. They can do how they want their ceremony to be, not rather than being dictated by...
And having to pay for both, apart from anything else.
Absolutely. It's costly, and weddings are costly, aren't they?
We all know. They are. It sounds already like you really enjoy your job, the way you're describing how you make it special, you understand the couples themselves. So tell me your background before you became Celebrant. What did you do?
Right. Well, I was in education for 35 years, primary education. I was a primary teacher, then head teacher. I'd had 2 small mainstream primary schools in North Devon, so I was head of both schools at the same time.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it, and loved every second of every day. And I'm not joking when I say that, I really did, but I decided that I wanted to go while I still loved it, and I wasn't getting worn out by it and Ofsted and all the things that you have to do as a head teacher. And so I left it 3 years ago, and then spent the first year after that retraining to be a celebrant.
Right, okay.
Did all the qualifications that I could, and then I've been practicing for the last 3 summers.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
And do you feel you bring skills from being a head teacher to your role as a celebrant? How do you do that then?
Definitely. People said, when I said I was going to be a celebrant, like, oh, that's different. Then they sort of thought, actually, skill set is very, very transferable.
Right.
So used to speaking in public, used to dealing with public and parents, grandparents, and all manner of different people in society, and storytelling as well, being able to get the best out of the people, so you can find out all about them. And just enjoying people's stories and their life and finding out, just as I do with the children. Biggest problem was the children at school said when I told them what I was going to do, but Mrs. Denham, you cry when you give us a swimming certificate.
I love that.
Yeah, how are you going to manage? And I've got 6 children of my own, and they were like, Mum, you do cry an awful lot, but because it's a job and it's a purpose, then I do hold it together. I do sometimes have happy tears, as the moment when the groom or the bride or the bride or whatever combination we have, when they see each other the first time in their clothing, in their setting, with all the people that they love the most in the world who are there for them. I do get tears, I'm afraid.
That's lovely. And to be honest, couples want the sort of the human side. Presumably that's why they have somebody they can make a connection with. They don't have just somebody sort of box ticking. This is why they want a personal experience. And the fact that you get emotionally involved in it is just a nice thing, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, obviously, I think the role for a celebrant, whoever you are, is to make a connection with the couple. But how do you think you make any sort of different connections in terms of you as a celebrant personally?
Yeah. Both my schools were very inclusive schools, so I have a real passion for understanding, supporting and helping the neurodivergent communities in our world. Neurodivergent means that you have a slightly different brain that functions in a slightly different way and how you see the world.
So that could include ADHD, ASD, any of those,
as well
autism,
as many others. Tourette's, learning difficulties, sensory overload, all manner of different ways of experiencing the world. And I truly believe that many couples do not think about getting married if they are neurodivergent, because it's just too much to think about. The overwhelm of being watched or being seen, having to walk into a room with everybody looking at you, even just the sensory difficulties of being in a venue, there's noise and lights, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame that they feel they can't get married because of that. If I do wedding fairs, I have a sign that says, do you or your guests have any neurodivergent needs? And I've had so many couples come over and talk about that. Just down to the basics. I want my little nephew to be a page boy, but he's autistic and he only wears certain clothes, so he won't be able to wear the wedding clothes. Does that matter to you? Well, no, not really. So what does he like to wear? Joggers and a t-shirt. What are your wedding colours? Navy and white. Navy joggers, white t-shirt. Job done. Oh, that's simple. Yeah.
This is real problem solving.
Yeah,
so you're taking needs that they have actually been stopping them having a wedding or even getting married at all, and you're then solving these issues. So that's one example. Yeah. This is really interesting. Have you got more examples of how you solve?
Absolutely lots. And often it's only when you start talking to couples do they then sort of come through and say, well, actually I have got sensory needs, or I've got this worry, I don't know how to handle it. And it is, I think, as celebrants, we are problem solvers. We are trying to make sure the couple get the wedding that they want in the way that they want it. All love should be celebrated, and if you want to make that final commitment to each other in a wedding and you have neurodivergent needs, you should be able to do that. So I had a couple who had 2 sons who were autistic, and they wanted to get married but didn't know how to do it because they didn't know how the boys would manage, but they didn't want to go off and say have a quiet elopement or just themselves. They wanted
to involve them,
absolutely,
but they didn't know how.
Right. So we had a big brainstorming meeting about it, and they knew the boys wouldn't be able to, it's 2 boys, they wouldn't be able to cope with everybody watching, so we bought a blackout tent. And at the front of the venue, the boys sat with all their things. They had their iPads, they had their sensory toys, they had all the things they needed in the blackout tent. Door was open, so only they could see Mum and Dad and me. They couldn't see everybody else. They went in there first, so all the guests arrived afterwards, so they didn't be seen, and they did the whole ceremony. And they just kept, when it came to the last bit, when I said, first kiss, they both went, and all that sort of thing. They were there in the moment with us completely. Yeah. And then afterwards they were fine, because it was just that moment of it being different than the wedding. Yeah. But they absolutely loved it. So Simple solution.
Yes, a solution for that.
Yes, but they wanted it, you know, and that's how it worked. And it's not even just in the ceremony. I had a groom who messaged me, confided in me. He said, I'm dyslexic. He said, and having to say my speech is absolutely wrecking me. He said, I don't even know if I can go through it. So we met, I said, right, put the phone down, meet me in an hour. We met in a pub and we chatted through, and it was the vows and the speeches that were his big problem.
And that was giving him terrible anxiety.
Yeah, huge anxiety. Very confident bloke, very successful businessman, great guy, but that was stopping him because he knew he had to read, and on the day the pressure of being able to read from a script was just too much. So we worked it out. So on the vows, I stood to the side, but by him, so he held his wife's hand, gazed at her beautifully, but I actually said his words. Nice. And everybody was crying because they knew the reason why he was doing it, but it was absolutely gorgeous. So he didn't have to say them, he wrote them. We wrote them together, we had meeting after meeting, wrote them together, and we kept going until he was happy with it. Then I said it for him, and then again I stayed all afternoon for the speeches. And in the end, his best man I read his speech as well, so it wasn't just him on his own doing it.
Yes, yeah.
I just stood in the corner, but near him, and it was lovely because every time I mentioned people, he could be involved with them, the eye contact, he ran over and hugged somebody at one point, his granny, and that sort of thing. Complete and utter involvement, but it meant that he could enjoy it.
Yes.
And he, you know, he afterwards, the messages I got from him, he said, I just can't believe that we did it. I can't believe I did it my way.
That's really moving.
Oh, absolutely.
You've totally used his words. It's him, but you've just facilitated those words coming out and made him have a lovely day because of it.
Yeah.
And earlier on, you mentioned some sensory needs, for example, that some people could say, oh, this doesn't feel right. You mentioned lighting and how does that work?
Well, I always say to couples, again, venues are starting to understand that people may have different needs, but I always say to couples, we can't ask them that. I say, if you're in a wheelchair, would you expect the venue to make accommodations?
Right.
Absolutely. If you needed a gluten-free diet, you would expect them to provide that. This is just the same. They should be making adjustments, adaptations for you. Yeah. And you shouldn't feel bad about asking for that. It should be naturally what's happening. I don't think we're quite there yet in the UK as a society for that people are. But go and speak to the venue, ask if they are aware of what being neurodivergent means, ask them to show you around, then look at the lighting, look at the temperature, what about the way that you can move around the venue, is there space for you? If you want to hold the ceremony, would you like a breakout room afterwards so that you can just go and go, we've done it. So you as a couple go, even a bed in it, just go and lie down and just have a bit of a break with a glass of champagne together. Your guests will be fine. As a celebrant, I say to the guests, our couple now are going to go and have half an hour to really enjoy their moment together, to have a quiet time together. Please go and enjoy your canapes and drinks and play garden games or whatever. Yeah. They're fine, they can go off and do that. Don't worry about them. Make it your day, your way.
And so any element of the wedding that is making you anxious, you could just bring that problem to you and saying, this is something that's bothering me, and not knowing if there is a solution at all, but you can find one.
Yeah, absolutely. We work together with the venue, if it's at home on the farm, we can find, especially if you're organising it yourself, you can absolutely make sure it's all around your neurodivergent need. But I've had brides who have had pockets sewn into their dress and they've had fiddle toys in the pocket, because as long as their hand can be moving, it helps to bring their anxiety down. Yeah. And so I could see that they were doing it in their pocket, but that's all they needed. I had another wedding that was, I'm very blessed in North Devon to have some beautiful beaches and weddings on the beaches. And so we put shells everywhere, and we put them on the guest seats so that everybody could have a shell to hold and things, but the smoothness was just exactly what they both needed. So they actually were holding shells throughout the ceremony. It looked perfect in the surroundings, but it was like a sensory need that they were able to overcome using what we had in the area.
That's so appropriate for the setting. This is so lovely because you're showing us how you're making the couple feel truly authentic. They're not having to mask, and they're not having to put on a show and not be who they are, because you've adapted it enough so that they're so comfortable they can actually enjoy the day so much more.
Absolutely, that's my mission. Is I want everybody to just be their authentic self. Weddings are stressful enough, and I say if I can take all the stress and anxiety away from the ceremony, that's my job. Yes. That's my number one job, is for you to be able to remember it, enjoy it and love it. I would say the celebrations for a wedding should start with the ceremony, not after. People sort of rush through the ceremony and then think the party starts. No. We start. It should be that. That's the main part of your day. That's the day you're saying, I love you to the most important person in your life. So that should be where we take everything away so that it can just flow and you can have a great time.
So you're not just doing that ceremony though. I mean, if you're talking about being able to advise on speeches or even saying speeches for them, I mean, would you deal with something like the acoustics of the band at the end? Is this something you can sort of a consultancy for the whole day?
Yeah, we talk all the way through, because things like silent discos are perfect. If you have got say autism and you're autistic and you loud music is just too overwhelming, but you love music, as many autists do, they adore music, then silent discos are perfect, because you can all play at the sound you want, the level you want, and everyone's dancing, having a great time. But many bands are very willing to think about the sound levels and to turn certain volume down for certain times, or even and then have a quieter time and a louder time, and then if you've got guests, they might go away for the louder time and then come back in when they know it's gone to sort of the quieter time. We've done that. We've had, again, I've talked about dietary needs, but venues and different caterers maybe haven't thought about, if you're neurodivergent, many foods and the taste and the textures of foods are huge issues. I had one couple who, both autistic, both fantastic wedding, and but they only eat bland brown coloured beige food, and so they had mashed potatoes, gravy and turkey dinosaurs, and that's what they had. That's what they wanted.
That's celebrating them,
absolutely,
and their quiddities.
Absolutely. And everybody else could have what they wanted, but that was one of the options, and lots of the guests did it because they thought it'd be good fun to have that on the day, and they wanted the couple not to feel alone in having that dietary need as well. So it's just thinking those things through. And couples sometimes almost need the permission that they can ask for that. I'm sad they feel they need to ask permission, because as I say, it should just be natural that you can ask what they like. But some places are still not aware of these needs that may be apparent in their couples. So it's going for it, asking it, because they should be able to just meet what the need is.
You can offer these ideas though, that you can have turkey dinosaurs, or you can have fidget toys, fiddle toys, or any of these things. Perhaps they might not have even known this is a possibility at all. They just think it's something they have to put up with. So these are not only you finding solutions to problems they bring you, but you're actually offering solutions to something they didn't even know that you could make it more comfortable that way. So
absolutely, and it is educating. It's educating the venues, it's educating the suppliers. I almost wish there was like a neurodiversity stamp we could put on things to say, I've had some training in it, or I would be supportive. And I said, it's not even, you don't even have to training, it's just you're willing to be supportive and not be judgmental, or just offer those options.
Yes, and understanding those needs and the breadth of them as well. How so many little tiny things could really make a couple affect how they feel on the day.
And it's not just a couple. If 1 in 7 people, if you've got 100 people at the wedding, if 1 in 7 of them are neurodivergent, you've got a lot of guests who need that. So I say to couples, the more you can offer in the planning stage, the more you can offer advice. You can say, dress code. If you don't mind, say, if you want to come in your jeans, I don't mind, or what you wear, what makes you comfortable. If you do want a dress code, try and make it as wide and as open as it can be, so that couples, your guests can feel welcome. It's things like, often autists may be able to cope with most of the day, but by 8-9 o'clock they're flagging, but you feel it's social norm to stay. Again, you could put on the all the planning details, please leave whenever you feel comfortable to leave. So you don't have to worry about, I feel a bit awkward, I'm leaving, but I'm really struggling now, I've been here for 6 hours, I need to go. You can just make things nice to people so they don't have to feel difficult about it.
I feel like we've come an awfully long way from the really set, stoic formalities of how weddings used to be. If I even think back to full weddings and a funeral, you think how things looked then, that sort of 80s time, wasn't it? And now this seems much more joyous and much more about the couple and the relationship. And I suppose that's why a celebrant is necessary, because it's you're making it about them rather than just about legalities of getting married. Is that right?
When you're thinking about them as a whole, you're trying to offer a safe, celebratory place where they can be their authentic self. And this is for a neurotypical couple, even you know, we've all got our own needs about how we want things to be, so it's just offering those options and say, tell me what you want, tell me how you want it to look. Don't worry about if you think it's crazy or mad or you don't think it can happen. We can find a way. We'll find a way through that jungle, so to speak, to make it happen.
Yes.
And I do say, even if you are neurotypical, what about your guests? And then how can we help that as well? So find ways through from that.
I really like the parallel of you being a head teacher, finding the children's needs, making sure the school is adapting to them and making sure that everything is setting them on the right path, because this is exactly what you're doing for your couples. You're making sure it's right to set them on their path for marriage, and it's really lovely. One thing I don't know at all is, if I was a couple coming to you, what do people expect to pay for a celebrant?
Again, it's how long is a piece of string, really, because it's a huge disparity where counties, countries, big cities, local, you know, little village halls, you know, it's where it's happening. But I tend to try and charge around what a registrar would charge. So that if a registrar came out to a venue, then I think that's a similar price that I would be, so that couples don't think it's a monetary thing to choose between a registrar and a celebrant.
Yes. So is there one wedding that is particularly memorable to you, or something that really stood out?
Oh, so many beautiful weddings. But one where it went all a bit crazy in the middle of the ceremony was, we had a couple who had a beautiful wedding in a farmhouse Exmoor. All the guests sitting out, gorgeous hot day on benches and the champagne glasses, and everybody was sitting there enjoying the ceremony. And they had 2 dogs, and one of them was an English bulldog, so a great big, you know, solid dog, called Poppy. And she had a beautiful new collar on and a lead, and one of the groomsmen was holding her throughout the ceremony.
No, 2 dogs.
2 dogs, and another Australian sheepdog, and both sitting as good as gold, the whole beginning of the ceremony, everything going beautifully. And they were going to bring the rings, and they actually were going to put their paw prints on the wedding certificate as well, so that they were shown that they were there. And all going lovely. And the photographer's drone guy set up the drone. He wanted to just come over as we were doing hand fasting, actually, where, you know, you join the 2 hands together. And as the drone went up, Poppy obviously heard the frequency or something, just sent her crazy. And she pulled away from the collar, came out of the collar. Poor groomsman left with just a lead and a collar, going, oh my, you know, what have I done? And Poppy ran through everybody. There was benches flying, glasses going everywhere, absolute chaos, but such fun. Everybody laughing.
It does sound hilarious. I mean, that for the guests as well.
Every Lude loved it. They said it was so memorable because of Poppy. And then I was going, cut the drone, and the drone guy finally realised, dropped it to the floor. Poppy went, oh, and then she just walked back to where she was supposed to be and sat down again. As if nothing had happened. So the next 5 minutes,
carnage behind her.
Everybody putting everything back, and started the hand fasting all over again. It was lovely. So I love things like that. You just don't forget them.
Dog people don't mind things like that.
Absolutely not.
Oh, I love that. That's so lovely. This has been really enjoyable. Thank you for painting such lovely pictures of how your ceremonies go, and I think it's particularly interesting about the neurodiversity and how you address those issues for the couples and for the guests as well. It's really, really lovely. So Sue Denham, thank you so much. And where can people find you if they say, Sue's the person for me, I want her to be my celebrant?
So my website's Celebrant Sue by Your Side. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all the usual social media places.
Celebrant Sue by Your Side.
Yeah.
So that's on your socials and your website too.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to meet you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Sue.
Thank you very much. Thank you.